Leading Ain't Easy, the show that cuts through the noise and gets real about leadership. I'm Ryan Calkins, Marine Corps veteran and founder of Reframe and Rise, and I'm here with my good friend and fellow leader, Erny Epley, founder of Bus Pro Network, as we unpack the highs, lows, and hard-earned lessons of what it actually takes to lead with character in today's world. It's not another highlight reel or fluffy leadership pep talk. We're talking about the stuff most people don't, the doubt, the pressure, the people problems, the pivots, and the personal growth that it demands. Because the truth is, leadership looks good on paper, but in real life, leading ain't easy. Hi, welcome to Leading Ain't Easy. It's our first episode. We're very happy to be here, and we're happy that you guys are here to join us. Son of a bitch.
Well, that makes one of us that's happy to be here.
For those of you that listened to episode 0, thank you. For those of you that didn't, I'm Ryan. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, 20 years of leadership experience between the military and private sector. I'm here with my partner in crime and co-host, Erny. 20 years of public sector leadership, navigating politics, policies, all the pitfalls that come with that. The show is about the messy side of leadership and really just kind of talking about, all of the challenges that come with leadership and not necessarily our successes. But today we're focusing on imposter syndrome. And Erny, how would you describe imposter syndrome?
Well, first off, Ryan, I want to address something you said in the little introduction there about celebrating our successes. This podcast would probably be about 10 minutes if we're celebrating successes, and then it would be a one-off, and that'd be it. But defining imposter syndrome from where I'm sitting, both professionally and quite literally in my living room, imposter syndrome is that feeling that came over me when I first got asked the question from a mechanic, when I got my first management gig at a school district, where he said, so I applied for this position and they didn't give it to me. And in my head, right, in my sarcastic, the little voice that's in my head, that little gnome, that's a little asshole, is like, yeah, no shit, I got it. And then he's like, and they didn't give it to me. What makes you qualified? And the first part of that question generated that like little sarcastic response. The second part was, man, that hit me like a knife to the side. Like, oh, goddamn, this guy has a point. Why did they give me this gig? At that point, I'm in my early 30s, mid 30s, and this guy's 40. He's been doing this since I was in middle school, and here I am now, his boss. The first department I took over, I was the youngest in the entire department by 10 years. So here I am leading a group of individuals, a group of school bus drivers, crossing guards, and a shop, and they're all looking to me for the answers. And I'm 10 years younger than the youngest person there. There's multiple people in this department who are old enough to be parents of mine. So in that moment, triggered by that one question, that's what imposter syndrome was for me in that moment. What about you?
For me, obviously imposter syndrome, it's any situation where you feel like you don't deserve to be there, and every moment you're waiting for somebody to figure that out and call you out on your bullshit. I don't know. I guess my earliest professional experience with imposter syndrome was in the Marine Corps. I was 19. I had just become a marksmanship coach, which was great, because I love learning. I love going through school, and I had this new skill that I was eager to get out there and share, and I was just a Lance Corporal. So I had everybody coming in, NCOs, officers, all of these people that had been in the military for years, while I was in high school, middle school, and I'm responsible for helping them on the rifle and pistol range and get them qualified. And it was terrifying in a way, because it's like, these people have qualified more times than years I have in the service. So a lot of it was like, who am I to tell them what to do? And it, like, as things progressed, it's like I found myself kind of checking in on them, just, oh, you good, thumbs up, not really coaching, not doing anything for them, assuming that they know what to do. Like I'm going to focus on, you know, my equals and the people beneath me. And that's kind of what I did. And there was a corporal from my prior unit, because basically marksmanship, it's a temporary 1 year kind of duty that was supposed to, it was only supposed to be a 1 year, and then 9/11 happened, and then I ended up basically doing my entire enlistment as a marksmanship coach, but that's another story. So this corporal, who was from my original unit, I kind of joked around with him, and he had a bad day of shooting, and I teased him about it, and he ended up going from expert to marksman, got his pizza box, and was really pissed off. And I saw him later that day in the barracks, and kind of not really made a joke, but tried to make light of it. And he kind of chewed me out and let me know that, like, I let him down, and not that, I was responsible for him qualifying or anything else, but the jokes and shit like that were, I don't know, it just kind of added to his own pressure of qualifying, and things just kind of spiraled. And I don't know, it stuck with me that just because I assume that people are good or don't need my help doesn't mean that I should leave them alone, or so I really tried to embrace that position of leadership and coaching, and not telling people necessarily what to do, but just offering advice and engaging, not being afraid to engage because somebody was superior and I felt like I didn't have the right to talk to them. So it was just one experience that kind of helped bridge that gap between becoming comfortable in a situation. Not to say that I went on to future positions and there was no imposter syndrome, because
Right.
I mean, I have that
That's
shit now.
right. And that's where I was gonna kind of go. Listen to you talk is I also want to address the different stages of imposter syndrome, as not only as you advance through your career, but also in your personal life. Um, I won't go dive too much into it, but I am the youngest in my immediate family. I lost my father when I was young, at a very young age, and I remember being a preteen, junior high, like 11 or 12, and I had an uncle who was a big influence on my life tell me, like, "Well, you're the man of the house." And meaning, it was only my mom and sister and I at that time. And I just remember thinking, like, golly, that's really unfair to put on a 12-year-old, that I'm the man of the house. Like, what are you talking about? And of course, he's a little more old school and in that mentality. So certainly my mom was still the matron of the family, but um that's my earliest memory, in the personal life, of dealing with something like this, and the different stages of imposter syndrome. And as life has progressed and we've went on, we've taken these positions of leadership. I feel like, and maybe I don't want to jump the gun here, but each stage of imposter syndrome, from my own experience, had to be met with an equally advancing stage of how to deal with it and how to navigate through it, right? So what was I know I have something in mind, that I can draw on for at least two of the areas where I was able to take a different approach in navigating through the different stages of imposter syndrome. Do you have something that comes to mind right away?
So you're talking about like the breaking the cycle of imposter syndrome and how you get over it?
Uh, I or at least how to at least address it, because I'm not sure that I've ever gotten over it. There's still, I mean, I've been leading for almost a decade and a half now, and I'm still not over it. There's still times where I'm just like, "God, am I really the man for this job? Good God." What's going on?
No, I don't know. I mean, do do we want to go into how to address it, or practices that we've done
I
when
think
we're
practices that we've done, and let me give you an example, and then you could
well,
stop
I'm just
me.
saying,
Feel
because
free.
we're
Okay.
9 minutes in, we're trying to stretch out to 30 minutes. And if we go into the end now, like, do we want to focus on
Mhm.
situations that we've been in where our imposter syndrome felt validated because somebody did call us out on bullshit or make
Sure.
us feel like we didn't belong, and kind of go a little deeper into experiences to where imposter syndrome was exacerbated or something like that. And then, at the end, we transition into things that we've realized through our careers to address it and become more confident in approaching it and try to keep imposter syndrome at bay, even though it's a constant struggle.
Yeah, for sure. You want to get started on that, or I could probably dig it deep in the recesses of my memory.
Yeah. All right. Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, no,
No,
no. You're good. I mean, it's our first episode, so obviously things are going to be chaotic and feel disorganized. But
well, I mean, we did talk about how we want this to feel authentic, and in the course of a conversation, I feel like this is what my
no,
next
no,
thing would be something like this.
that's a fair point. No, I guess so when I started at Waste Management, I was put in charge of drivers who, some of which were old enough to be my dad. It was kind of it was a situation where I really tried to approach it as I'm not your boss. I don't know. I kind of approach it like more of a facilitator. Like, I will hold you accountable when I need to, but you are the expert here. I'm just here to kind of provide resources, provide what I can to make you successful. And what I told them, basically is I will tell you, I will call you out on your shit when you're not being safe. When it comes to your safety, I will write you up. We'll have those conversations, but I'm not here to nitpick every single thing you do. I want you to be able to do your job. I don't want you stressed out when you're behind the wheel and, you're driving this massive garbage truck with, concern for yourself or public safety, everything else. Like, I don't want my driver stressed out. But the first day I was there, I introduced myself to one of the drivers and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Ryan, blah, blah, blah." He's like, or I asked him what his name was or something. I don't remember. All I remember was his response is, "Yeah, I am. Who the hell are you?" And I'm like, "All right." And I had another driver tell me, "Oh, well, you're not the first route manager we've had. You won't be the last." And I'm like, "Okay, this is going
Eek.
to be a struggle. Like, these guys don't give a shit about me." So it was really I touched on it briefly, in episode 0, but it was a situation where I made sure that I was the first one there every single day, and I was the last person to leave. Like, I was there even though my drivers, were taking overtime, extra time. My days were like 14 hours long because I was getting there early and I was leaving late. And one of the drivers came up to me at the end of, it had to be like a 3 or 4 month stretch where I was just exhausted, but I was trying not to show it. And one of the drivers came up and he's like, "Hey, man, I just want you to know, you may not think that we see it, but we see what you're doing." And I was like, "Cool, man, thanks." And inside I was like, "Fuck yeah, I did it. I got through," and it was, I don't know, it was such an amazing feeling of winning this team over. And they knew that I was there for them and I was practicing what I preached, and I wasn't out there to get them like, prior managers, where they kind of created this adversarial us versus them, where we became our own tight knit team within, our division of drivers and other route managers. And it was just, it was great, man. And like, what the day that I left, like, I had them all come up to me, they took me out to lunch, which they didn't
That's awesome.
typically do. Like, it was
Right.
awesome, man.
That's awesome, dude. For me, kind of what something you said in there kind of sparked two things. One is maybe we should jot this down for a future topic of an episode. Is being the FNG, right? The fucking new guy who's here and our manager. I've taken over 3 departments now. I shouldn't say taken over. Come in as manager, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Uh,
Commandeered it.
yeah, yeah, by force. Um, but how to what the challenges are there as a whole other episode. However, going back to imposter syndrome and how one of the downfalls that I would highly encourage people to pay attention to and be aware of is our personal ego in that situation. As many times, I'm sure with drivers that you dealt with staff that I've dealt with, there is a challenge there. The question that I got and that you got too, like, who the hell are you? Why the fuck are you here? Right? That was coming from a place of ego, at least on the other end, right? And if I were to and I have done this admittedly, meet that with my ego, and then all of a sudden it just escalates to us just bumping heads. And if it's your first interaction with them, then I mean, buckle up. It's going to be a long ride before that relationship is moves past that first impression that they have of you. And one of the mistakes I made in the past was all of a sudden wanting to flex them on them, right? And for lack of a better term, flex like, I got this experience, I got this, I've been doing this for this, I worked for CHP and I was on a subject matter, and you know what? And as soon as I come with that energy, no matter how valid my experience is, or no matter how valid I feel my merit was to get this position, like it's gone. The intended recipient is just whited over with, fuck this dude. You know? Go
No,
ahead.
exactly, because leaders who are struggling with confidence often try to over control things, and
Yeah.
it kills trust. And
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it just it can go one way or the other, but it allows people to avoid making, tough calls, and they just dig their heels in, and the team feels it, and then you end up digging yourself out of a hole.
That's tough to do, man. That is so. Again, if this is confession hour, I still struggle with that. I still struggle with 'cause I think it's human nature, right? It just if I'm challenged on something, I want to hit that back harder and be like, no, god damn it, listen to me. This is why, or XYZ. And it's really because to get to a position like this, you have to have a competitive edge. You have to have an ambition to go along with that competitive edge. And so when things like this are questioned, or what your question, it does come into it fires up those gears, right? And to your point, like that screams insecurity. If I'm constantly spouting off my resume at the beginning of every argument. So a word of advice that just do your best. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. Embrace it. Learn and do better the next time. I feel like I'm talking to an employee that we're having a corrective meeting for.
I'm the boss, damn it, just listen to me.
No, that doesn't work. So keep checking your ego, letting the facts speak for themselves. I think what worked for me, and here I go again, jumping the gun for what worked,
No, we're
is
here, man. Let's break that cycle. How do you do it?
uh, okay. What I found early in my experience is to uh, agree with them in a sense, right? One of the things that I started early
So
that
you're
was,
like, yeah, I don't deserve this. You're right.
yeah, like, I fucking suck, dude. What am I doing here? No. But agree with them, say, like, you're right. I don't have all the answers, and no one person does. And guess what? You don't either. You can't do my job and I can't do yours, but collectively we can get this done together as a team. Now, I'm not trying to give a rah speech. I'm just giving you objective facts and objective clues, giving you the objective facts to lead us through this, right? Because that's the position that I've been put in. So yes, you're right. I don't have all the answers, but let's work together on this. And I think doing things in that way, it not only validates their position, but it validates yours. You're the leader that was put into place, and you are not doing everything on your own because you can't, right? At some, I want to amend that statement. At some of the smaller departments, you do everything on your own, and you are the one man or one woman or whatever uh crew, right? But certainly when you get to a large organization like the organization I'm in, managing approximately 100 people, like it's just too much to do for one person. So then it becomes really imperative that you really lean on that. But I'm kind of rabbit trailing here. Sorry about that, Ryan. Going back to how we address that is, yes, agree with them in the sense that, yes, you're right. I I don't have all the answers, but let's get there together. working together. Bring your knowledge to the table. I'll bring mine. Let's come up with something that gets these kids to school. In my case,
And then I agree with you. I mean, that's huge because being able to tell somebody that you don't know something, I mean, you would think it would erode trust, like, oh, this guy doesn't know anything. But it actually builds it because you have that vulnerability, when people want to help you. It's like, oh, well, you don't know that. Let me help you, and you reciprocate. And it just, I don't know. For me, it was a lot of kind of reframing. And instead of thinking, oh, I can't do this, I don't belong, like I shouldn't even be here, I'm gonna step away, like let somebody else do it. It's looking at it like, no, I'm growing, I'm developing, I can do this, I want to do this, like I want to be here to help these people, and not like you're some, you know, oh, everybody follow me, I'll take you to the promised land or whatever. But it's just I don't know, like the more selfless I have been in my career, the more success I have had and going out of my way for others. And it's also not wanting to be the smartest person in the room. Like if I'm the smartest person in the room, we're in trouble, And
it's funny that I was just sent something. It was like a TikTok or something, and it said this dude just pointing his camera at this guy, and he's like, "I am way too dumb to feel like I'm the smartest person here." And I'm like, bro, every day. Yeah, sorry, I went off a rabbit trail there, but
no, you're good, man.
so earlier we talked about the different stages of imposter syndrome and some of the pitfalls, and we gave an example of ego. Um, Another stage that kind of hits is the upper echelon of leadership when you are the leader of leaders, right? Because then you want to talk about ego. In my I want to be careful because I don't want to cross the streams between my professional life and this podcast. Um, but I have been part of areas, I'll put it that way, where you get a couple dozen leaders that represent thousands of employees at this institution, and man, so it doesn't take long to see that, to be able to pick out like, oh, this person, they got there because they know somebody. This person got there because he's the hardest working person in the room, right?
Mhm.
It only takes about, I'd say, maybe 3 or 4 weeks of interaction in that. I mean, maybe even faster. Some people are a bit more in tune than I am. I'm kind of aloof sometimes. You're smiling because I just don't pay attention. But
Man, there's some
but it
people
doesn't
I
take.
could pick up in like that.
Oh, you can,
I'm
like,
like,
right, because you're more I think, you're more intuitive than I am, definitely. uh I'm just there barely try I'm like, I barely made it today. No, but I was just trying to make a point that, um uh, in becoming a leader of leaders is a whole other thing, because then you really do have to massage egos, or maybe not massage egos, but acknowledge that they're there, and approach this person differently than you would with another one. And again, that could be its own topic on its own, how to deal with subordinates. I don't know, what, for lack of a better term. um but there is something that I wanted to address with the latter stages of imposter syndrome, meaning like these two people, the two managers that are underneath me on the organizational chart, they look to me, and I a lot of times I ping pong it right back to them and say, look, what do you think the solution is? And now it's coming to the point where our leadership styles are meshing really well. They say, hey, here's the problem. Here's what I think should happen. What's your call? Right. And I've always said in those situations, since learning this, is I'm going to have my idea of how this should work. You're going to have your ideas. Sometimes they're going to align. Sometimes they're going to be polar opposites. And many times we can't take and I'm probably straying off into another topic entirely, but I have a point for this, how it relates to to imposter syndrome.
We'll
Let me
see.
get there. Yeah, probably not. I'll probably lose it because I tried to explain it away. But no, so don't be married to your idea if I outright reject it as leader, or if we go 100% with what you say, right? The ultimate responsibility is on my shoulders as leader, and that's where the imposter syndrome is, right? The feeling of this person has been at this department for 3 decades. They're coming to me with an issue, they're coming to me with their solution, and I disagree with it, right? What gives me that right? Am I making sense? You're kind of looking at
No,
me
you're
strange.
making sense. I'm not sure if that's imposter syndrome or if it's. I mean,
Was it
I
an
guess like so
Mhm.
you don't feel like you have the right to tell this person that you disagree with their idea.
Right. Like what qualifies me to say that, hey, let's call him John Flanagan. John, your idea of how we should handle this is based on 30 years experience. Here I come with 3 years experience in this district and this place. Here's my idea of it, right? Um in that moment there is that voice in my head being like, dude, no, like that's wrong. You're wrong for that, you know? I guess in a way, how do we navigate that? How do we get through that?
So in those times that you've had that, have you found it? Because typically, for at least for me, when I have to tell somebody, like, obviously, no idea. Well, I'm not going to say no idea sucks. There's a lot of ideas that really suck. But then you're like, oh, well, how do you feel about this? But no. So I don't know. Like when if you don't have resources or staff or anything else to do what that person has, I mean, what I have found to be more successful than not, I guess. Like you're always going to have some people that sour grapes and whatever, but the more that you can explain why you can't enact what they want to do or their suggestion and help them find an alternative, or at least have them come back with an alternative, so that way they still feel empowered in what they're bringing forward. But it's like, well, we can't do this because of this and this. I like that idea, but what if we look at it a different way? And that way it still keeps them engaged without completely shutting everything down. And I think that is a little bit of a different topic, but
Yeah, my
have
bad
you
for the rabbit trail.
yeah, but have you found more success in being able to explain, sometimes over explain why something. I mean, I know that there's periods of time where it's like, because I said so, like that's it, we need to move on, blah blah blah, but
Yeah,
most of the time there are opportunities there to be open with somebody, and typically what I've found is that they respect it a lot more than just a
yes.
blanket no answer, no reason, like we're not doing it, go back and do your job.
100%. So last on this little rabbit trail, and I'll stop on that. To your point, sometimes they will respect what I found by and large. Of course, there's outliers for everything. They will respect the no, it won't work, and here's why. But sometimes you don't have time to give that. Sometimes it's a snap, like we got to go right now, and if we don't, we're going to be fucked. So it's got to happen right now. What I've found is even in those moments, communicating like I will explain later, but it has to be this way now. If you haven't built that trust, again, here's another topic. If you haven't don't have that built-in trust with your team, it's gonna suck, right? Depending on who it is on my team, uh, uh, boom, let's go, not a problem. I trust Ernie. He said this before. He's come through, right? It's not just words that I'm saying. I'll explain later and it'll make sense. Blah blah blah. No, it's like he actually does, follow up on this. And I hate talking about myself in the third person, but but yeah, just to kind of close that point out.
Ryan agrees.
So, so here's one more stage. I know we have a little bit of time left.
Well, before you jump into
Go
the
ahead,
next stage, I just wanted to
go for it.
comment because you
Yeah.
mentioned, being in a position where you're leading other leaders,
Yes.
and as a young leader, when you're coming up, you have this like expectation that you need to have all of the answers. And I know we touched on this a bit, but
Mm,
when you're around other leaders, you feel, at least prior to leadership maturity, you feel this undue pressure to be the best leader among leaders. So you
Ah,
add this, additional element and pressure of, oh, I have to show up and show these other leaders that I deserve to be amongst them. And I don't know, it's just kind of like that pressure can be draining. And, it almost burned me out to where I don't know. Once I, like we talked about being more open and honest and telling somebody I don't have all the answers, can you help me or whatever. And that helped me become a better leader. And I felt like when you're not trying to, not upstage, it was never that,
yes,
but when you're not
right,
trying to show that you know everything and you can do everything, you gain more respect from fellow leaders
yes.
also, and they're more willing to help you, and you start to build trust amongst other leaders as well, not just the people that, are under you.
100%. What I've learned, again, we talk about the leadership maturity as it's gone on over the years. What I've learned in those situations, especially when it comes to colleagues or being leaders of other leaders, is a humble approach is the best approach, and using those opportunities as a networking opportunity to say, "Hey, this is what I have. This is what I'm dealing with." And if it's something that is universal with leadership, insubordinate employee. Everybody who's ever been a manager anywhere has had to deal with this topic. So if you're having a trouble with that, like use that as a network opportunity and have a humble approach saying, "Hey man, look, I know you've been in the industry a lot longer than I have. I have my way of how I think this should go, but I want to pick your brain a little bit. What would you do in this situation?" So that uh not only is a graceful display on your part as a leader, it also kind of tickles their ego a little bit, because now you're going to them for this, and that it's a good way to build that networking and build that trust even with colleagues, because then later on, I mean, you might have the opportunity to return the favor, in some sense or some way. So I think that does nothing but build a stronger leadership group
Have you
in
tried
those
that in
situations.
terminations too? This is your sixth write-up in 6 months. If you were me, what would you do?
No, it doesn't work because they'd come back with, give me a raise. Oh man.
So your third
So
stage.
yeah, yeah. Um, is how it relates to salary, right? When you hear the words, "Oh, that's why you get paid the big bucks," or they reference your salary um, in conversation, and it might be something benign, that they might have a offhanded comment about where you're at on the salary schedule or where you're at in the hierarchy of things. But for me, it's always been a point of, oof, do I deserve all this money? And I'm using air quotes. Um, but do I deserve to be at the top of the salaries that schedule for this department? Right? Do I deserve that? Like what? I know intrinsically or sort of on paper the answer to this, but there is, and maybe this is an open question to you. Like I have a point that a thought that helps with this, but um has that ever been something that you deal with, the thought of, man, this other person's been here for 35 years and they know this department inside and out. They know every single bit of this. Yet here I come in, and because I fully believe I have the merit to be there. I have the experience. I have the know-how in other areas that have afforded me this opportunity and privilege to be called director and called, be in senior leadership. With all that still relevant in my head, there still is a little bit of, man, they deserve a lot more. And I don't know that I deserve to be higher than them on a salary schedule.
It's a tricky thing because you can have somebody that's been there 30 years and technically can be the best employee in your department.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean that that person can rally others to
Hmm.
get something done, you know? They could be great at what they do, but there's a cap on that, you know?
Yes.
And I've been around great employees that are horrible leaders and have no business being in charge of anybody. And they think that they do because they have that mindset of like, I know how to do this. I know how to tell other people to do it. But it's not necessarily about doing things how you want to do them. It's about trying to grow and develop people and have this cohesive team that works towards a goal and gets things done. And not everybody is fit for that. I do think that leaders, like people talk about, so I mean not everybody, but you know, there's sometimes there's this perception like, oh, the higher you go, the less work you do. And I would argue that maybe it's less of the technical work that you do, but it is exhausting dealing. I mean, as a leader, you spend half your time listening to other people complain or I mean not even necessarily complain. It's just you're connecting with people emotionally all throughout the day, which is exhausting. You have your own
Yes.
responsibilities to do, which is exhausting. It comes from below, from above, from the sides, like everywhere. And it's nothing but conversation after conversation, which for me, as like, I'm not, I don't know, it's weird. Like, I'm not a people person, but I'm great with people. Like, I'm an introvert in the sense that when it's time to wind down, I want everybody like gone. I just want to lay on my couch and do absolutely nothing. Do not bother me. Like, but you know, I spend my workday trying to find out what motivates people, what gets them going. And when you have an engaged workforce, they take care of everything for you. You know, everybody is so worried about, oh, you know, the bottom line, getting this, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, when you focus on your people and they're happy to come to work and they enjoy the people that they work with and what they do, the results take care of themselves.
100%. And you kind of struck a chord with me about how a truly engaged leader will be there to support their staff. And it's not so much the operative work, right? The operations of, yes, I know how to get in and drive a bus. Hell, I did it on Friday. I was literally the last line of defense. These kids wouldn't have gotten home from a football game if I hadn't driven and put in a 16-hour day. Like, I'm not, sort of a little bragging, but but like, I can do the technical things. However, the position I'm in, I'm much better suited to be supporting and guiding and directing these decisions. So to sort of answer my own question there, this person who's been here for 30 years had, can't do that. And admittedly, this person that oh, I'm sorry. I said I disconnected. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're still here.
Okay. So I was saying about the person that has 30 years, that's a great operator. Again, operations back and forth. However, getting folks to move pieces around and getting folks to uh do work that they really don't want to do isn't in the strong suit, right? It feels almost manipulative in that way, but that part of leadership is like, okay, I have this thing, this sucks, I need it done. How do I approach this, and how do I get that person to get to do this, not in a way that is gross manipulative, right, but in a way that is open and honest, right? Now I won't get into the mechanics of that, but knowing that I am better at that than this other person who is a great operator is something that's helped address that sort of thing. And does that equal the pay gap between us? I mean, that's not necessarily for me to decide, but it is in my opinion, a qualifying factor. Secondly, what has really eased my um, the imposter syndrome is there was I'm stumbling because I'm trying to think of the analogy. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. There was an analogy I heard on a podcast, a leadership podcast, much like ours, Leading Ain't Easy, free plug, uh, about this person who was also dealing with imposter syndrome and saying like, why do I deserve this? There's so many other people that can do this job. And from my point of view, I agree with that. From where I sit as senior management, I'm like, I'm nothing special here. Like, there's so many other people that are better at managing, they're better at balancing their budget, they're better at dispatch operations, they're better at, fill in the blank.
Hmm.
Why am I Like, how did I get here? Like, well, what did I do besides having a beautiful, square-jawed, good looks face, tall, not dark, but handsome?
It's
Um,
unfortunate that you hide it behind that beard.
I know. We got to level the playing field. But at the same time, the analogy that was given was if you imagine the ascent to senior leadership as a pyramid, then at that bottom level of pyramid, you have a lot of people who are capable to do the job. So then the question is asked in a series of yes or no questions. Are you willing to lead? Are you willing to be the person who makes these decisions? A vast majority of those people, and sometimes I wish I had said no, right? And been like, nope, I'm good here, right? But as you'll get a certain percentage that say no, and only a certain percentage that say yes. So then you go one level up, and then that scope begins to narrow as you go up that pyramid. And personally speaking, the next question asked is, are you willing to relocate? Like I did chasing this career. The scope drastically even narrows after that, right? And then, are you willing to be the face of a department for almost 100 people to the public? Meaning, if there's a driver out there right this second that is acting out of sorts and doing something that is completely out of line, then who does the public see first? Not only the public, but my superiors, right? The board of education, the superintendent, things of that nature. They're going to come to me first. They're not going to go to that driver. They're going to come to me first and say, "Hey, Ernie, what the hell is going on over there? What are you thinking?" I'm like, "Me? Well, I didn't do it, But I'm still having the eggs on my face, right?
Like,
So you
I
ask
shouldn't
that.
even be here.
Right? I got imposter syndrome. No, but then you ask the second tier of people, right? Are you willing to take that on? Are you willing to shoulder that responsibility and go to work and operate every single day, knowing in the back of your head that, man, I'm only one terrible decision away from a really bad day? So the point is, like, the yeses get less and less and less until you get to that top. And then you realize, like, okay, I've answered yes to all these things. I've taken on this responsibility. I've relocated. I've quite literally lost relationships over this because in the pursuit of this career, and not that every case it's a binary decision like that, but in my case it was, right? All these decisions that are made along the way on the ascent path narrows it down to, yeah, I'm the dude for this job. And it kind of bolstered my confidence when I heard that in a podcast. And that's why I'm making the point here. Hopefully there's someone out there that may be struggling with this, but start asking yourself those questions of all your colleagues and all your peers. Just a yes or no question on what got you to where you are. And you'll find quickly that you were the dude saying yes, or the chick saying yes to everything. Maybe not everything, but saying yes enough to get where you are.
Yeah, no, I
That's the
appreciate
point.
that. All right, let's bring this home. So imposter syndrome it is a part of leadership. It
Yep.
you're stretching, you're putting yourself out there. It doesn't mean you're failing. It just means that you're somewhere uncomfortable because it's new, and you're
Hmm.
you're developing and trying to learn on the fly and grow as you go. Um, the best leaders are, at least the ones that I've met, are the ones who still feel imposter syndrome, but lead anyway, and they use it to stay humble and curious and connected and engaged. I mean, that's all we've got. Like,
Yeah.
thanks for
I
listening
hope.
to the first episode of
Yeah.
Leading Ain't Easy. If you've got a story about imposter syndrome in leadership, share it with us. We'd love
Yeah.
to talk to
Love to hear it.
people that listen, and maybe even take stuff for future episodes, or have people on future episodes to talk about it.
Yeah, and I'll just close out by saying sincerely, Ryan, it's always good to hang out with you, buddy. I love you. And I really, really hope that something that we said along the way can possibly help somebody. That really is the heart of where I'm coming at this from.
Yeah, love you too, man. I don't want that to go unaddressed. Thanks for tuning in to Leading Ain't Easy. If something in today's episode resonated, please do us a favor and share it with someone else who leads or aspires to lead. Because honestly, none of us have this figured out, but we can all get better together. If you're a leader or professional feeling quietly stuck in your career, visit reframerise.com. It's a career and leadership coaching firm where I work with veterans and other high achievers to realign their work and lead with purpose. Again, that's reframerise.com. And if you're looking for leadership tools, training, or support for your transportation department, check out Bus Pro Network, where Erny helps school transportation leaders across California build safer, stronger teams. Please subscribe wherever you listen, leave a review, and let us know what topics you'd like us to tackle in the future. And remember, leading ain't easy, but you don't have to do it alone.